Good morning, everyone. It's so exciting to see you here. Thank you. And I should say good afternoon. I know many folks and good evening. We have folks joining from all over the world. So thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Lilly Stairs, and I am the founder and CEO of the Chronic Boss Collective. It is truly an honor to have you all here for our first session of our first ever summit. We decided to put this on a few months ago so that we could open up access to a lot of the amazing speakers and programs that we have as part of our membership. And it's been amazing to see the response. We have over 600 people registered as of this morning, over 600 people registered for this summit, which I think just really goes to show what a need there is for this community, and that there are so many women who are ambitious and navigating the challenges of building their career while managing chronic conditions. So very excited to have everyone here. As a reminder, our membership is open. So if this is the type of content and community that you are looking for, this is our final cohort of the year that you can join. And this is our first official year. So you would get in on the ground floor as a member in our first year. And it's the last time we'll be open for this year. You get $50 off. So your membership would be $397 annually. And we'd love to have you. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out. I can take some questions at the end around membership too. And you can also message us at hello@chronicbosscollective.com, and Jen will get back to you there. Okay, so I have a ton of content for you today. I am really big on presentations that pack a lot of punch and have a lot of content with very little fluff. No fluff. I hate you all have showed up. You're all busy women and you're here today. So I would hate to have you be here and feel like, oh, I don't really feel like I learned anything. There's going to be a lot you're going to learn in the next hour. I can promise you that. And my hope is that you'll have little bits and pieces that you'll be able to take and carry with you. I will note that if you are here with us live, you will receive an email later today with a code that will give you access to my Career Building Blocks course, which is a lot of the content that is included in this presentation. But it will just be the opportunity for you to go back and to do some of the exercises and break it out module by module. So without further ado, we're going to get started, and I will have opportunity for Q&A. I'll leave some time at the end, but if you do have questions as we're going throughout, I will try to pop in occasionally and look at the chat. Okay, so let's see here if we can get this going and shared properly. Hopefully the tech is gonna work with me this morning here. And yes, a great question. So we just received a question that will these seminars be available to view after today? And yes, they will. So this recording, as well as every recording from the summit, will be available through October 7th, at which point it is then only going to be available to members of the collective. So you will have a week access to this for 1 week following the summit. Okay, so I am attempting to share, and thank you all for just bearing with me for one moment here as we get this going. Okay. So are folks seeing the screen here? Thumbs up. I suppose I can't see all of you, so that's not particularly helpful. If somebody just wants to drop in the chat that they're able to see this, that would be fabulous. I see Benita raised her hand. Okay, great. It sounds like you guys are able to see this. Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. All right, let's jump in and get started. So, okay, these are career building blocks that I have really curated over the course of my career. They are the foundations for what have made me successful. And I do believe they are applicable to anyone, whether you are an entrepreneur or you are climbing the corporate ladder, or you're somewhere in between where you have a side hustle and you're climbing the corporate ladder. These are blocks, career building blocks that apply to everyone. Okay, so a little bit more. I think many of you know who I am if you're following the collective, but I am a 3-time autoimmune patient. So I live with Crohn's disease, psoriatic arthritis, and psoriasis. I have had a really challenging journey in terms of getting to a diagnosis, and then had a very severe onset. I will say that as of actually tomorrow, next month, October, is 10 years of medically controlled remission for me from all 3 of my autoimmune conditions, which is such a blessing. And I feel really grateful for that. And it has allowed me to do what I do every day and support this community. I am a 2-time founder. So I founded the Chronic Boss Collective, and I also founded Patient Authentic in 2020, which is a boutique consultancy that works with healthcare organizations to build programs that empower and educate the patient community. And I'm really, really passionate about empowering women living with chronic conditions and helping them really live out their career dreams. Okay. So when I think about setting the tone, how we speak to ourselves is really important. And the mindset that we bring to our work every day is really important. So I like to start with affirmations and goal setting. So what I like to recommend to folks is that you get some sticky notes, some Post-it notes, and you write down an affirmation that you want to live out, that you want to be reminded of every day. So you could take the sticky note and you can put it at your computer. You could put it next to your bed. You could put it in your bathroom. I recommend probably having it somewhere wherever you're working, which, on any given day, especially if you're remote, that could be on the couch. That could be on, so maybe it just goes on the top of your computer screen. And if there are any here that resonate with you, I recommend just taking them, again, writing something down, putting it down, and or come up with your own. And these can be really powerful in terms of reminding us why we do what we do, and that we have the power to do what we do. Okay, and then this is a part of the Career Accelerator course that I mentioned at the beginning. And this is actually a printable worksheet that you could print out when you go in to do the course. And so just setting your goals, really thinking about what are your goals and how do you get there. And so if you were to go through the Career Accelerator course, these are all of the different parts of the course that you will check off, and you will see this today. And so you can also add your own. We're going to talk a little bit about your why soon, and a reminder to self could be your affirmations. Okay, and just bear with me one moment because I want to make sure that I can see your questions here as they're coming in. Okay. I may have to pop out to see them. Okay. All right. So this is the secret sauce, your secret sauce. This is one of my favorite exercises. It has been a favorite exercise of folks who are members of the collective. And it's really all about owning your narrative. And it is about taking your chronic condition and taking your skills as professional skills and putting them together to develop your secret sauce. So what do I mean by that? What are your practical skills that translate into a career? So what are are you an amazing communicator? Are you an incredible engineer? I was just doing a presentation the other day at a biotech company, and we were talking about scientists who are really great at running experiments. And I'll talk about that example in a moment. And then what superpowers has your chronic condition given you? So that could be anything from resilience to empathy to just sheer willpower. And I'll share some more. And you put these together, and that's your secret sauce. Okay, so here are a couple of examples from chronic bosses. Amber Tresca, she's awesome. If you don't know her, I recommend giving her a follow. She's does a lot of different things, but runs a platform called About IBD for people living with Crohn's and colitis. And her skill is technical writing and editing. She writes for things like Everyday Health and Healthline. Her superpower is her lived experience with chronic illness. And so her secret sauce is that she's a content provider who creates patient-centric education materials. Jamie Cole, she runs Girls Who Eat. She has amazing recipes and also just great information on clean living. So her skill is that she's really skilled at social media and an ingredient expert. And her superpower from living with Gaucher, a rare disease, is her commitment to clean eating and non-toxic living. And again, she developed that. That was developed after she was diagnosed with this chronic condition. And she said, I really want to commit to putting these healthy things into my body and ensure that I'm living in a non-toxic way. And so her secret sauce is that she's developed a viral, authentic brand supporting her community and finding the best products for their health. And so another example of this could be, and you can even take pieces that are superpowers from any challenge that you've had in your life. But I think for many of us living with a chronic condition, oftentimes our superpower does come from the challenges that we've experienced there. And so another example could be if you're a scientist and you are really outstanding at running experiments, and then over time, let's say you're a female scientist and you grew up being one of the only women in the room, in the class, at the science fair. And, of course, that creates a level of gender bias that you're having to overcome on a day-to-day basis. And it changes the way that you have to show up. So you develop this resiliency. So your secret sauce is that you will fight and you will be resilient and you will keep going and keep running the experiment until you get it right. So these are some examples of the secret sauce exercise. And again, it's meant to say our chronic conditions are not what make us weak. They are what make us strong. And they can be a real asset to our careers. And I'm having something pop up. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can. Guys, sometimes I hate technology. I don't know why it doesn't show. Oh, here we go. Here's the Q&A. All right, one second. I'm going to have to exit out of this so that I can pop out and see some of this. Thank you, Justine, for saying that you're so happy for me. Okay. Guys, it's so weird that you can see. Can the slides be increased? Yes. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me see if I can. Thank you guys all for bearing with us for a moment. I'm going to stop the share and then I'm going to reshare one second. And let's see if it's easier for you to see when I do it this way. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Is it weird if I'm like this? Okay, let's try it this way. Let's see what happens. Let's see if you guys are able to see the screen a little bit better this way. Okay. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for bearing with us for one moment. I just want to make sure that you all can see. Okay, let's see if this is any better. I think this makes me a little bit smaller and will hopefully allow you to see. Okay. So the next block we're going to talk about is boundary setting. So this is really, really important when you're living with a chronic condition because you have to have boundaries. We cannot do it all. And in the current work environment, I think that people are often afraid to speak up and to say, what you can and can't do, but you do have rights. You have rights as a person and an employee of the workplace. And even if you're an entrepreneur, a lot of that's actually setting boundaries with yourself, which can be even harder because I think as ambitious businesswomen, we can be tough on ourselves. So here's how I recommend folks go about boundary setting. Your chronic condition, it impacts everyone differently. You know your body best and you know what it needs to thrive. And so I always challenge folks to really take some time to think through what are your non-negotiables? Under what circumstances are you able to do your best work? So here are some questions and some examples to consider. Do you struggle with brain fog in the morning? Seek out a job that cares less about your hours and more about just getting the work done, which, by the way, for the record, I'm really big on that, is that I don't believe everybody needs to sit in a desk chair from 9 to 5 to get their job done. And so, and I do think that's a narrative that is changing. And I think a lot of people are getting on board with that. I know there have been a lot of return to office mandates, but I also think there are a lot of people who are sticking to the remote work, and who believe that this mindset is the one that makes the most sense. And so if you struggle with something like brain fog, if you're an entrepreneur, block your calendar in the morning so that people can't book time. Do you have regular doctor's appointments? Being upfront about the frequency of your appointments and negotiate that those will not come out of your PTO. I think that's something that's completely reasonable. If you're immunocompromised and you prefer to reduce your exposure to germs, this is where remote job opportunities can be great. If you need a specific office setup to manage your disability or chronic pain, requesting an ergonomic or standing desk, and again, working remote where you can have your own setup is great. Now, I'll give you, this one actually comes from me personally and something that I did and negotiated with my employers when I was at the outset of my career. So I really had horrible total body arthritis. And it was challenging for me to commute on public transit during rush hour because I often couldn't get a seat. And of course, here I was, this young woman who seemingly didn't look like I had anything wrong with me. So if I did have a seat, people are looking at me like, why is this girl taking a seat when there's a pregnant woman standing next to her, there's an elderly person? And so it can be really challenging, as I'm sure many of you know, when you're living with an invisible illness, and things like this come up. So I did talk to my employer and they said, okay, totally fine for you to come in at off hours. Like, so I could do some work from home and then commute in at like 10 and leave a little bit earlier or later so that I didn't have to be in during rush hour and I knew I would get a seat. So these are just some examples, and it's important to know what for you, how you work best, and having these non-negotiables in your head, taking some time to think through them, taking some time to think through what it could look like. People are often willing to have a conversation, and the right manager is willing to have a conversation to help you get the accommodations that you need. Okay, this is one of my favorite career building blocks, is around designing a killer LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. So let's talk a little bit about what you should be including in a LinkedIn profile. Definitely a professional headshot. So this should be something from the past 5 years, so relatively recent. If you don't have one, there's a few options. You can DIY it at home. Smartphones are amazing. AI headshots are a thing now, which is really cool, or hiring a professional photographer. Banners are another opportunity to highlight more about you and what you do, and I'm going to show you some great examples of that in a moment, along with your headline. In your headline, do not just put your job title. This is an opportunity to share more about what you actually do and excel at, and include some keywords that folks might be searching for. Again, I will show you a little bit more on that in a moment. And then a bio. I don't know that we're going to have time to go through a full bio today, but I will share that as part of the follow-up. I have a formula, anatomy of a LinkedIn bio, that I will share with everyone, that you can really sit down and you can go through some of that. Okay. And I'm going to pause for a minute because I'm getting some questions, and unfortunately I have to go outside of my share. So, oh no, better, but can you make it bigger? Oh gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. This is all right. Let me see what I can do here. Thank you all so much for submitting that. It's a little hard to see. Okay. 1 second. Let me see what happens when I do this. What happens is, unfortunately, I can't see the Q&A when I do this. So, size is perfect for me. Ask people to consider their own settings. Oh, so folks, it might be that if you change your settings on your screen, you might be able to see that a little bit better. So take a look at your own Zoom settings and see if you can play around with them a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's get back to it. And I think we will have some time at the end. I'm hoping to have some time for everyone to potentially do some workshopping as well. Okay. All right. I'm going back to sharing. Okay, here we go. So, oh boy. Oh boy. Everyone, it's so interesting how challenging technology can be sometimes. Okay. You may or may not be able to see me now, but that's okay. You don't need to see me. It's more important that you can see the slides. So, all right, more on the anatomy of a LinkedIn bio in a moment. You should have at least 1 to 2 recommendations on your profile. So I recommend asking a current or former colleague or manager, or if you're new to the workforce, you could consider asking a manager from a volunteer position, a role as a teacher's assistant. So those are important, and it's really good to have recommendations on your profile. Here are some examples of what I was talking about, some really concrete examples. If we look up in the top left corner here, these are examples of headlines. So instead of just having your career, your job title and the company name, actually putting in some keywords and even considering putting in some results. So if you see here, this person, they've got marketing manager in here, they have SaaS apps. So those are things that folks might be searching. Driving growth from 10K to 50K users in 8 months without spending a dime on ads. That is literally a sales pitch in their headline. And somebody sees that and they go, oh, that sounds pretty good, right? And so we know what this person is all about before we even really dig into their profile. Same with the one below it. They've got some keywords, data science and healthcare. And then they also have real results from the work that they've done using big data to reduce hospital readmission rates by 17%. That is really a great way to present who you are and how awesome you are in your headline. And just a few other examples, if we look at some of these other profiles, the headline examples, Omar has included his title and where he works, but he's also included health policy champion, health equity advocate, data-driven enthusiast. So somebody is searching for a health equity advocate, which they very well could be because there's so many conferences now which is amazing, on health equity. And so Omar might come up on someone's profile and maybe they're going to reach out to him about speaking for a conference. If you look down at mine, and this has evolved a little bit, my profile is a bit different now, but at the time, I've got my 2 companies. I have the volunteer position as board chair of the Autoimmune Association because that's lending more credibility. I'm a member of the Forbes Business Council, so I wanted that up there because, again, that's credibility. I also say helping women with chronic conditions live out their career dreams. So you know who I am and what I'm all about very quickly. Ade, she is a member of our collective. She's brilliant, and she'll actually be speaking on our entrepreneurs panel tomorrow. If you look at her profile, she's got, small business marketing consultant. She provides cost-efficient digital media services. I mean, this is, again, what she's all about right off the bat. And she's specifically, she's niche down. She works with small businesses. And again, all these folks too, Ade has used her header so that she can have her show a little bit more about who she is, as well as direct people to her website. Omar, he has, photos from DC which ties back to his work in policy. I have a bit of a personality pick, if you will, and then my 2 businesses. So these are just ways that really, honestly, easy ways that you can elevate your profile and help people understand who you are and what you're all about. Oh, and so I will just mention on LinkedIn, again, I do have an anatomy of a LinkedIn profile, and I will be sure to share that so that all of you can use it to develop your bios after our session. So our next block is around networking, and this is everybody who's a member of the collective knows, because I talk about this all the time, your network is your net worth. And networking is such a critical piece of how we show up and how we advance our careers. And I'm going to exit out of this for just a moment. Oh, it's still screen sharing. Guys, I swear every time I do a webinar, there's always something going on. Okay. Okay. This is how you know it's real. No one's perfect, right? We don't all do everything perfectly. So are you guys still seeing my slides? I think so. Yeah, I'm still screen sharing. Okay. All right. All right. Give me a moment. uh, I can't even say this is because it's really early because it's not. I've already had coffee. Classic. Okay. Um, just one moment. Here we go. I'm grabbing it back again. Okay. Present. Also, hot tip. I use Canva for slides. Canva is amazing for making slides. It makes everything look pretty. I don't know if other people use, I know a lot of people use Canva now for social media, but love it for slides. All right. Networking. So again, like I said, every single job I've ever gotten was because I networked. It had nothing to do with it. These nowadays, and especially in this current market, you can't just submit your resume and get hired. That's just not how it works anymore. And so it's all about who you know. And there are a couple of different ways that we can expand our networks, both in person and at home. So one thing I suggest, and this is again leveraging LinkedIn, is conducting informational interviews. So what ways that you can do this, you could start by following someone on LinkedIn that you're interested in connecting with, adding some thoughtful commentary to their posts, and then after commenting on different posts, probably about 3 times, reach out to connect and request a meeting. In this note, I want you to briefly and explicitly communicate why you're interested in speaking with them, something specific you admire that they have accomplished. This may require some research. And then ask for only 15 to 30 minutes of their time and outline what you want to discuss in a specific goal. When people reach out to me and just say, I want to pick your brain, or it's just too general, I get so many requests that I can't respond. But if somebody reaches out that's more thoughtful and says, I specifically want to understand how to do X. I see that you have done this and I want to learn. Would you be willing to do a 15-minute coffee meeting? And I will talk about the power of thoughtful outreach. So I actually had this was a couple of years ago, a gentleman named Alan Thompson, who works at 1-8 Productions. He sent me a LinkedIn request and he had a thoughtful note. He said, and actually this is the exact, if you're looking at the slides, and again, I'll send them around after, this is the exact message that he sent me. He said he loved the work that I'm doing at Patient Authentic. He talked about some of the work that he's doing in the healthcare space and sent an example. And he said, if you ever need video or photography in your work, I'd love to collaborate. And he also put at the end, and this is what I love, I should probably also mention that my wife, our photographer, has ulcerative colitis. So we love that you're supporting women with autoimmune disease. And I really loved that personal touch. And what's interesting is that Alan actually reached out at the perfect time. And it just so happened that I needed a videographer for a course I was helping Patients Rising, a nonprofit, produce. And so I ended up hiring him. And that was the power of this thoughtful outreach. We all get messages from people who are like, hey, do you want to increase the number of LinkedIn followers that you have? Do you need help from a virtual assistant? Like, people are coming at us all the time trying to sell us something. And so those generic sales pitches really fall flat versus this thoughtful outreach can make a real impact. Okay. So now let's talk about a couple of more ways that we can build our networks. Joining networking groups. So joining networking groups, connecting on LinkedIn, and attending events. Let's talk through this. And this is an exercise that you can do, and I encourage you to do after the session. Make a list of your location, your industry, your career, your role, and your intersecting identities. So what I want you to do is Google or ChatGPT. ChatGPT, wow, what an unbelievable tool. of networking groups that fit into these categories, and select one that you want to learn more about and join. So a couple of examples that apply to me so that you can get a sense for what this actually means. Location and identity. So I'm a part of the Boston Business Women's Network networking group. They have a Facebook group. So you can actually there are a lot of networking groups on Facebook, and they're also on LinkedIn. So I'm a part of that. That's the local one. Industry and identity. So I'm part of the Grind, which is a private group for women working in health tech. Career and identity. I'm a female entrepreneur, so I've joined Entreprenistas, which is an awesome community for those of you who are entrepreneurs. And actually, Stephanie Carton, the founder, one of the co-founders of that, she is speaking on our entrepreneurs panel tomorrow. She has MS. She is a rock star, so I highly recommend checking out that panel. And then career and identity, of course, the Chronic Boss Collective, shameless plug, we are enrolling right now. So again, if you're looking for people who are living with chronic conditions, who are also really ambitious in their career and you want to connect with them, we're a great spot for that. So these are some of the different ways that I recommend trying to build your network. Also, when you can, attending events, both virtual and in person. There are so many events all the time. And if you just go to things like Eventbrite, again, checking Facebook, checking some of these other places, you can find different events. Your local Chamber of Commerce can be a great way and place, the Better Business Bureau. A lot of these organizations will host events that you can attend for free and network and meet people. Okay, this building your personal brand is undoubtedly one of the most important things that I've ever done for my career. And when we talk about personal brand, I think sometimes people instantly jump back and they go, "Ooh, I'm not somebody who has a personal brand." But the reality is, and I was just I was saying earlier in the presentation, I was just running a presentation last week at a biotech company, and I asked the question, raise your hand if you have a personal brand. And not one person raised their hand. And of course, it was a trick question because we all have a personal brand. We all have a personal brand, and a personal brand is the way that we show up. It's how we interact and engage in the world. So our personal brand, if you're in the office and you're the person who brings in coffee for the team that had the bad day, if what you wear. When I was on Capitol Hill for Autoimmune Awareness Month, it was a sea of navy and black suits, and I'm in my hot pink suit and people could see me from a mile away. That's who I am, right? That's a part of my personal brand. So just the way that we all have a personal brand, and it's really who we are. We start to get intentional about our personal brand when we think about we're intentional about how we're shaping it and how we want to be perceived. And it is my belief that that should just be the authentic extension of yourself. You shouldn't try to make yourself something you're not, but it's just intentionally trying to show up. So here are some ways that we can do this outside of our inner circle and the way that we're interacting and engaging with family, with friends, with colleagues. There are ways that we can more intentionally build our brand so that people can really understand who we are and what we stand for and what we're good at and why we're the best person to hire or to support as an entrepreneur. So let's just level set for a moment here and talk about why personal brand is important. This is a slide that I love this, and I share this all the time now. It came from Clemence Sopp. She is a professional and executive here in the Boston area. And so I recommend checking her out and following her. She has great content. But I went to a summit where she was speaking, and this slide was so powerful. Canva, which of course, oh my God, I forgot that I had this slide in here, to be honest, and I totally just gave Canva a shout out. They should definitely make me an affiliate. Whatever, that's fine. So Canva, the LinkedIn page, right, for Canva, they've got 1 million followers. Melanie Perkins, who's the CEO of Canva, by the way, she has a great How I Built This podcast with Guy Raz. He interviews her. I highly recommend it. She's got 253,000 followers. So she's got a quarter of the followers that Canva has. When she posts, she gets 10,000 views. When Canva posts, it only gets 1,000. People relate to people. So if you run a business, right? If you run a business, You can post from your business page, but people want to hear from you because we relate to people. We want to know and understand people better. Think about your favorite brands. Think about how you love to see what the founder's up to. You want to see like, oh, what's the founder doing? What's the CEO doing? They're, you like following their story if they're out with friends or they're taking their kids somewhere. It's more interesting. We're humans. Humans relate to stories and to other people. And even if you don't have your own business, if you have a side hustle or working within, this is an amazing way to set yourself apart when you are working in corporate or working at a company. Building your brand is a way to position yourself as a leader, and it is a win-win for the company, because if you start to build your brand as a thought leader and in communicating your values and elevating who you are online and in person, that's a value add to the company you work for because you're also representing them. Okay, so here are a couple of ways to build your brand and to identify your niche. Because I think that there's a lot of different pillars that can go into your brand. And so thinking about, what do people currently come to you for? What do you want to be known for? What do you know really well? How can you add value? What's something unique about your lived experience or skill set that can set you apart in a crowded landscape? And again, that's kind of going back to your secret sauce, right? Like, is there a way for you to take living with a chronic condition, which, by the way, over 60% of people in the US alone are living with a chronic condition. And I don't even think that number is inclusive of things like mental health and ADHD, which we very much have as a part of the collective and consider chronic conditions as a part of the collective. This is something that so many people face. And so are you comfortable and willing to talk about that and to share your experience? I believe that those of us who are comfortable sharing that we live with a chronic condition and integrating that into our career is important, because we can help other women. We can support one another in this journey by speaking up and speaking out. Okay, so a really critical way and an easy way to get started in terms of building your brand is through content creation. This is far and away just an easy way to get going. And like I said, I talked about LinkedIn, and I very intentionally talk about LinkedIn as part of your career building blocks and chronic boss building blocks, because LinkedIn is an incredible platform for your professional career, right? You can be on Instagram, absolutely. Instagram, there's a lot of value there depending upon who you are and what you do. Facebook, sure. Twitter, yes, you can be on all those. But if you are overwhelmed by all of the different places you can be, LinkedIn makes a ton of sense, and you get a lot of value when you post on LinkedIn. I think it's like only 1% of people on LinkedIn actually post on a regular basis. So you have the opportunity to get a lot of eyeballs on what you're doing. So I want to share, and I just saw a Q&A come. Yeah. Oh my God, guys, I'm so annoyed. Like, it does not let, okay, yeah, and just I'm popping out just for a moment, guys, just to pause. I wanted to check the questions, and I did get one that came in. What are the chances we all have notes, outlines for your presentation? Yeah, absolutely. So I will be sharing the slides so you can take a look. And those of you who are joining live, you are going to get access to the Career Accelerator course, which will have all of this too. So thank you for asking that. All right. Oh gosh, guys, I got to go back to the share screen. Let's see how this goes. All right. We are just all doing our best out here. Okay, I think I'm back on it. Yeah, okay, I got to present it again. All right, here we go. So, content creation. And here are a couple of examples of how we can do this, right? So, these are some of my favorites that I've seen. Commentary on latest happenings in your industry. Set up Google alerts in your industry, and for keywords, have them come in. And it's important when you're in your industry, you need to stay on top of what's happening, because this is how we start to become thought leaders, is by leading the conversation. So Jenny, who is fabulous, she works at Alira Health, and she's very active in going to conferences within the industry. And so she had gone to this conference, and she wanted to keep the conversation going from the conference. And so she asked, what are the do's and don'ts for clinical trials listings? etc. And then she tagged a bunch of people to get a conversation going. And that post had a ton of engagement. And it shows, hey, Jenny, she's out there, she's leading the conversation, she's networking and mixing and mingling at conferences. That's a great example of something that you could do. Justin Welsh, any of you who are entrepreneurs, I highly recommend following Justin. He's amazing. He's focused on solopreneurship. So, just being a solopreneur, having a couple of contractors, he has very high value content. He talks about how-to guidance and practical tips. So how do you turn one idea into 7 pieces of LinkedIn content? This was a great post. It was to the point, it added value. And so I love that. That's something that you can do. You can provide how-to guidance and practical tips in your area of expertise. And then here we have a personal story from Lauren Perna. Lauren is the Chief Community Officer here at the Chronic Boss Collective. She's amazing. She's very engaged with our members and she knows everyone. And Lauren runs her own communications firm, writing firm. And she also is a mental health advocate. And so she often will share bits and pieces of her personal story. And here she talks about the intersection of entrepreneurship and mental health. She says, it says occasionally when I tell people that I'm an entrepreneur and I also have major depressive disorder and chronic anxiety, I'll get a response like, gosh, how do you manage? And I tell them I manage just fine, thanks. Then she goes into the whole thing. So these are all different ways that you can just send some ideas to spark. Here's some content that you could create, and that's going to be a stepping stone towards thought leadership. And I do have, as part of the Career Accelerator course, some exercises to get you thinking, and you can see them here. So write down 3 to 5 ideas for social media posts using the following as a jumping off point. Again, commentary on industry happenings, how-to guidance and tips, a personal story that ties back to work, a social cause that's important to you. We'll talk more about that in a minute, motivation and inspiration for your target audience. And I also recommend, as you're thinking about developing out your brand, and I unfortunately did not have time to include this in this presentation because it's already packed with a lot of stuff, but I do recommend that you try to distill your brand down to 3 pillars. So you don't want to get too crazy and you don't want to be posting about all different types of topics all the time because that's going to be confusing to your audience. You want to figure out what do people come to you for? What do you want to be known for? So, as an example, my pillars would be something like talking about life as an entrepreneur, being a leader, a thought leader on women in business, and especially women with chronic conditions. And then probably patient advocacy and engagement. So the work that I'm doing both with Chronic Boss Collective and Patient Authentic in terms of integrating the patient voice and empowering the patient community. So those would be examples of my content pillars, and they can evolve and change over time, but you do want to have some consistency there. Okay, and this is our final block, and it's leading with heart and authenticity. And here I'm going to really just share some stories with you of how leading with heart and authenticity has been instrumental in shaping my career. So I'm going to start here with kind of this path that led me to where I am. After I was diagnosed with a few autoimmune diseases back to back, I literally remember I was sitting in the hospital bed. I had lost 30 pounds from my Crohn's disease. Because I couldn't eat. I couldn't swallow water without feeling pain. It was agonizing. And it had taken them a while to get to this point. 6 months before I had been diagnosed with total body arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, it was to the point that I literally couldn't move. My mom was dressing me and feeding me. So I was sick, and I was 19. And I remember typing in these conditions, Crohn's disease and psoriatic arthritis, and the term autoimmune came up. And I was so mad because I never heard that term in my life. I think we hear it more now. There's definitely been a shift in that we talk about autoimmune diseases more, but at the time we really didn't. And I became an advocate in that moment. I didn't really know what a patient advocate was, but I became an advocate in that moment. And so I literally started in the hospital bed typing out, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a club on my campus at Northeastern University, and I'm going to do all of these things to raise money and awareness. And so that's actually what you see here. Was a couple of years later, when I finally got my autoimmune conditions under control, I put together a campaign called the 50 Cents for 50 Million campaign and Fight for Immunity. And we raised money and awareness for the Autoimmune Association. And this was just something I wanted to do. I was passionate about it. I was leading with heart. And what ended up happening out of that was the Autoimmune Association actually invited me to sit on their board for the work that I did developing that campaign. And that board seat has been an important piece of helping me build credibility in my career, helping open doors and networks. I've met so many people through that position. I ended up being the interim CEO of the Autoimmune Association for a period of time. Many of my clients that I work with from Patient Authentic, I've met through the Autoimmune Association. So this was me just authentically doing, of course, not knowing at the time, right, that that was going to lead to a board seat and what that would do for my career. But it was something that I said, I'm going to leverage my skill set. I'm good at building campaigns. I'm good at running events, and I'm going to use it to make an impact. And that's where it led me. And then over on this right here, this is a picture of me with the Clara Health team. This was a pivotal moment in my career, was joining this startup as their head of patient advocacy. And the way that I got connected into this startup was, again, because I was giving back. I was leading with heart and authenticity. So, I'm big on this concept of give because it always comes back. And so I was in a job. I was at an agency that I really wasn't happy with. I was probably going to have a mental breakdown. I was not in a good place. And so I quit. And I had done a speaking engagement a couple of weeks before. And by the way, with speaking engagements, I had just put together a website and said I do speaking engagements. And I ended up getting asked to moderate a panel for women in bio. It was kind of wild. People I need to do a whole nother series on imposter syndrome, because we need to just, it should scare you. Things that yes, we're scared, and yes, we feel like, oh, we're not qualified to do something, but nobody knows what they're doing. No one knows what they're doing. So anyways, again, sorry, I'm getting off topic. That's a whole other discussion. But I got asked to speak on this panel. It turns out a woman on the panel, she said, oh, you've got to chat with this group, Evan and Sol, the founders of Clara. They really could use the patient voice and insight. And so I started talking to them. This is still while I was at the agency. And I remember I said, okay, we have no money, but I will advise you because I believe in this. I think it's really great. It was helping connect patients to clinical trials. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I quit the job. I happened to have a meeting with them 24 hours after I had quit the job without another one. And I remember sitting down, we were at a pizza shop, and they said, so what's new with you? I said, well, actually, I just quit my job. So if you know of any companies in health tech that might be interested in bringing on a patient advocacy person, I'd be open to it. So I remember I saw the founder. It was just Evan who was there, the gentleman. And he said, I saw him get on the phone and he was talking, and then he got off the phone and he looked at me and he said, I just talked to my co-founder, Sol, and we want you to come on and be the head of patient advocacy at Clara. And so within 24 hours, I had this really dream job. And it was all because I had networked. I found my way into and I had built my brand. I networked and I built my brand. And then I said, I'm going to give because I believe giving comes back. And I said I would advise, at the time it was probably for equity. But yeah, so these are all important things, right? We're connecting all of these dots to give because it comes back, lead with heart and authenticity, and move forward with what lights you up. That's so important. What lights you up is so important. Okay. Oh, and then this is the last piece. Then I'm going to open it up for some questions. So leading with heart and authenticity. So really being who you are. And that's something we talk about. We talk about this throughout the presentation. I talk about my secret sauce, right? I've been so open about living with a chronic condition, living with multiple chronic conditions throughout my career. I've built a career on it. I recognize that's not for everyone, and that's okay. You don't have to talk about your chronic condition, but I want to give women the resources to do so and to leverage it and flip the script. And again, rather than saying, this is what makes me weak, no, this is what makes me strong. And here's why it makes me strong. And leveraging it to actually help you accelerate your career as opposed to feeling like it's holding you back. So a couple of examples too, and this is not necessarily of me sharing about my chronic condition, but it's just me being really, really honest and showing up as I am. In the middle here is a picture of me presenting at a conference, and it was a healthcare conference, and healthcare conferences can be kind of stuffy. And so I went in and I said, I'm gonna just do something really fun, get the audience going. And I had them pick a pump up song. So I started off, and the whole idea was, I don't need to get into the whole idea of why I did it. You don't need to know that. But anyways, we had them pick a pump up song, and I was a little nervous because I thought, oh, I don't know if they're going to get into this. And there was a way for them to submit through a Q&A feature, and it would pop up on the screen, the song. So I was like hoping that I'd get a few people that did it. And literally everyone submitted a pump up song. And it was like somebody did Baby Got Back, which was kind of weird. But then there was, Eye of the Tiger and Firework and Beyonce. And it was just so fun. And people loved it. And I ended up creating a playlist out of it after. And so, I was so glad I showed up as I was. And then if you look to the right, it was opposed to me talking about my mental health journey. And how I've had OCD and anxiety from a young age. And it was something that I didn't really talk about because I focused a lot of my work on autoimmune disease. And that was so powerful. That post got a lot of comments. It got a lot of people engagement. And then if you look over to the left, my most popular LinkedIn post of all time, I've launched 2 companies. I don't know. I've done a lot of other things that I think are cool, but far and away, this post got the most engagement. And it was when I came out about my age. So I spent my 20s, right, as a young female working in the healthcare industry. And I felt that I was not taken seriously. I was always trying to make myself appear older than I was or hide my age because, in my opinion, and there is some truth to this, right? That often women and younger people are not taken as seriously. And so I finally turned 30 and I said, God, I've accomplished a lot in my 20s. I had started a company. I was the board chair of the Autoimmune Association. I was proud of everything I'd done. And I was sick of trying to take my year of graduation off of my resume and my LinkedIn. And I said, I'm going to talk about it. And so I did. And I talked about the day, and on my birthday, I posted about being 30. I posted about what I accomplished. And I said, if you're young and you feel like you're not being taken seriously, you keep going, keep climbing, keep fighting. Again, this post, it just totally took off. And it was me showing up as myself in a way that made me feel a little uncomfortable because I wasn't sure about how it was going to go, but I was so glad I did it. So anyways, these are really truly the blocks that have made up my career. These are all the steps I've taken. And of course, this has all happened over time. Networks build over time. Brands build over time. Relationships build. Your LinkedIn profile builds over time. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And it takes a lot of work. If you look all the way back to the campaign that I ran for the Autoimmune Association, I put a lot of time and effort into that. And I didn't know it was going to result in a board position. But these are the blocks that I recommend you invest in and that you build so that you can get where you want to be in your career, whether that means that you started a successful company or you have gotten promoted in the current job you're at, or maybe you're switching to a new industry. Whatever your career goals are, these are really solid building blocks to help you get there. So I want to open it up to Q&A, and before I do that, though, I do want to just send a few reminders. So you will get the slides from the presentation. Any of you who are on live are going to get free access to my Career Accelerator course, which is valued at $2,500. This recording will be available until October 7th for all summit registrants. And then after this week, it will only be available to folks who join the membership. And we encourage you to join. This is the last week now until October 7th. It's your last chance to join us in our first year. And as a Summit registrant, you get $50 off of membership for life. So that's a special price of $397 a year. You can really lock in at this amazing price point. What I will say is also if you work at a company, we have had a number of folks, we've written a letter for you. And if you go onto the website, our Chronic Boss website under the benefits page, we have a draft letter that you can submit to your manager to ask that this be covered. A lot of companies have professional development funds that will cover the cost of membership. And also keep in mind that as an entrepreneur, this is a really great opportunity for you to expand your network. And it's a low cost way to get exposure to other women who are going to cheer you on and support you. We have so many women who are entrepreneurs in our network that are giving each other business. And so, my sense is that if you invest in this, there's a good chance you're going to make up for your investment plus some just through getting new clients as part of the collective. So we hope you'll consider joining, and we are doing an info session as part of the summit if you want to learn more from us later this week. So, all right, I'm going to stop this share. I'm going to go, I'm seeing some Q&A stuff coming in, and okay. Is there going to be, let's see, is there going to be any discussion throughout the course of the summit about when and how to charge for your product services? That's a great question. I would say that that is something, if you are interested in bringing that to our mastermind, we'll be doing a mastermind. The Chronic Boss Mastermind is actually it's something that we do monthly, and it's one of our most popular sessions. And as part of the mastermind, you can come on and you can say, here's a challenge I'm facing. Here's where I have questions, and here's where I need help. And you can leverage the brilliance of the collective to actually make an impact and to get your question answered. And then the second part of the mastermind is that we do some networking. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm reading through a couple of these that are coming in, which is great. Thank you all so much for asking so many questions. So you will be able to, if you were already remember, we had a question come in, are we renewing our subscription for next year, or will re-enrollment be in the spring? So from when you purchase your membership, it is active for a year. So if you joined us in the spring of this year, your membership will renew next year in the spring, and you renew at the same price that you signed up for. So our founding members did come in at a lower price. They will retain that price for life. If you come in now as part of the summit at the $397 price, you'll retain that price for life as long as you keep renewing your membership. Has your chronic illness ever been used against you in a way where people don't think you are capable of doing the job? So that's a great question, Sarah. And I have not personally had that experience because I have always been very careful about owning the narrative. I have felt that if I own the narrative, people can't make assumptions, right? Or they can technically make assumptions, but I'm feeding them the way I want them to see it. So as opposed to somebody finding out offhand that I have a chronic condition, and then they start to talk and they start to think about how I show up and how I can do my job, I'm coming up out front and saying it, here's the condition, here's what I've got going on, but here's why it's a value add in this career, and here's how I'm going to get the job done. I do know that other folks in the collective have had this experience, and so I do recommend, if that's something you're comfortable posting in the Let's Chat section of the summit, I think that there would be other people who might have some comments that they could share on how they handled this. But my top recommendation is to own the narrative around it so that, again, you can shape how people perceive it. Okay. So thank you all so much for joining. Our next session starts in just 2 minutes. So we're gonna run and get everything flipped over to join the next webinar. Thank you all again for joining. I hope that for those of you who watch the recording, we hope you enjoy. And Yes, another question on this will be sent to review later. You will be able to access this recording through October 7th, at which point it will only be available to members. We encourage you to join the membership. You're able to do so right on our Circle platform. This is where we host our membership. So thank you all so much for joining us for our first Chronic Boss summit session ever. It's very exciting. Next up, we have DK. She's incredible. She's going to do a stress resilience workshop. She did this a couple of months ago within the collective and people loved it. So I highly recommend, if you have time, sticking around to check it out. We also have our corporate panel later, and that's going to be amazing. It is Laurie Butson is our moderator, and she's also at Clear to Flourish, who is sponsoring our summit, which we're very grateful for. So I look forward to seeing all of you at more sessions. And please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out at hello@chronicbosscollective.com or drop us a message in Circle. We'll see y'all soon.